All right. Hello, and welcome to the post-game show. It was a 5-2 win for Sacramento Republic, who came in and were dominant early. Fifth minute goal by Kieran Phillips, just an ugly mistake by the Oakland Roots. And then you get a wonderful set piece goal to get your second goal by Wheat, who gets a nice little header into the box. And then you get a third goal at the end. And then at the end of that, you get another goal early on by Kieran Phillips to start the second half. Then Oakland starts to find their way back. It is 4-1, then it's 4-2. By the way, the second goal was a brilliant chip, just an unbelievable finish. Then Trevor Amon comes on and gets a fifth. Unbelievable game. And we are going to be joined shortly by Phil and John from live on the scene. But first, I got to thank our wonderful sponsors, goals.tv. A lot of exclusive content is going to be coming up on there. And check out addedtimeoutfitters.com. And if you use our code USL, you get 10% off your order. Buy all the things. 10% is a lot. I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys while we're getting ready with this post-game show as Phil and John are setting things up. If you are wondering, yeah, I'm not in Oakland, obviously. Flight stuff, it was a whole thing, but it's okay. Phil and John had a blast, and it was a blast to watch them, and I cannot wait for them to join. For people who didn't get to watch, because things happened in the political world, and this is not going to be the time to talk about it because you've heard enough of it. It got relegated to CBSSports.com. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, you missed a great one. I mean, 5-2. I do believe that the other CBS game, which was Louisville versus Indy, was also a 5-2 match. So if you get picked for CBS proper, you're getting goals. And they're going to be able to break down what they saw inside the stadium more than I can. But one thing I definitely noticed was that, especially in the second half when Oakland started going for it, oh my word, what a beautiful game it was. Back and forth track meet. Oakland looked like it was about to explode if they got the third. And there were a couple moments where it looked like they did. Sacramento was really on that back foot. But if you're Sacramento, you have two of the best 1v1 finishers in Kieran Phillips and also Trevor Amon. I mean, those guys just don't miss one-on-one. And so really exciting, big win for Sacramento. Like I said, we're 3 minutes into this live show. Phil and John are going to be hopping on very soon. They are trying to get into their place to set up. We're going to have exclusive interviews with players, so please stick around. If you follow us on Twitter, we'll be posting about those interviews and all this. If you didn't get a chance to catch it live, will be cut up into a pregame show and a postgame show. If you missed the pregame show, Phil and John ended up talking to Niall Logue. And that was a ton of fun. It was a fun interview. Yeah, so we are just kind of waiting for them to get through. While we are waiting, if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the match, please put them into the live chat. Like Alberto told me, sorry for the travel stuff. Yeah, turns out one blue screen really can just take down all of the world. And shame on CBS. Yeah, I mean, I think that if people watched that match, they would have been really they would have been fans of soccer instantly. It was just a ton of fun. I think that especially the comeback started happening. I think a lot of Sacramento fans were probably like, uh-oh, we saw what happened with this before. And it really, the reverse fixture were truly reverse fixtures. In Sacramento, Oakland goes up 3-0. And Sacramento slowly pulls it back, and it's 3-2, just ran out of time. Oakland kind of felt the same way. They go down, what was it? It was 4-0, and then they get one goal. They get two goals. And there was a moment where you're sitting there and you're thinking, Oakland might do this. And Sacramento gets their fifth, and that was nail in the coffin. But my goodness. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it was a great game. Oakland absolutely stepped it up. It was fun. Just straight up, it was a fun match. The One of the things that stood out to me as I got videos from John and Phil was that the atmosphere there looked incredible. Even after Oakland went down, it didn't really feel like their fans were out of it, man. And there's a lot of interesting stuff behind the scenes when you think about these two clubs, right? When you think about the cities, look at what's happening with the Oakland A's. Where are they going? They're going to Sacramento, right? And that's something that is like, it's kinda hard to put into words, but just naturally there becomes rivalry there. Our club, our team that has been here forever, has a cheap owner and then is moving to your city. And Sacramento doesn't really want the A's either. No one really wants the A's except for Oakland, and Oakland doesn't even want John Fisher. So when you look at the kind of rivalry aspect of there's a natural rivalry built into this. I think that it showed. Sacramento had what, 25 fouls, and Oakland is known for their fouling. They foul just about as much as anybody else in the league, and Sacramento took it to them. It was a physical game. It was an annoying game if you are Oakland, but man, it just felt like Sacramento had something, you know, to prove. And when I talked to Mark Briggs uh, earlier this week, one thing I asked him, I was like, when you guys played against Orange County, you guys got scored on by a goalkeeper in your own house to equalize the game. And you guys in the reverse fixture, you guys go down to Orange County and absolutely beat the brakes off of them. I was like, how is that going to compare to this other match? Or how's it going to compare to Oakland? And he put it very bluntly in a way that I was not prepared for him to. He said that it was an embarrassment to the badge. He said it was an embarrassment to him on how Sacramento played. He said that it was everything about it was an embarrassment. He said that the players were not fit for the shirt if they played like that. And he said that no matter what, Oakland was going to get a better version of them. Sacramento fans were going to get the best version of Sacramento. He said they will never repeat what they did against Oakland. For him to outright call it an embarrassment and to call out players and call out coaching staff, call out himself and say that he was embarrassed to be their coach after the way they played, I think there is a reason why it was 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. I mean, coach put him on blast, man. And if he was talking that way to me, how do you think he was talking to them behind closed doors? I don't want to get too speculative, but seriously, when you talk about firing up the players, Sacramento looked fired up. And I don't think that Oakland necessarily looked bored, or I don't think they looked even nervous. I think that Oakland looked fairly composed. But man, Sacramento was fired up. And it was a stunning display. Now, in the second half, one of the things that Oakland did was they came out and had a triple change, which you just don't see. I thought it was I thought it was pretty cool. And you bring in three different players, and then you say, "Hey, let's figure out what to do." They bring in Dwyer, they bring out Najai, and then they oh gosh, I always forget how to pronounce his name, and I feel horrible. They're number 4, and I just cannot think of how to pronounce his name right now. I'm so sorry. And so they all come in, and man, it just looks like a different team. And especially Devin and Mike, so Devin Kerr and Mike Watts pointed out that Dom Dwyer was really a big change. I think getting Camden Ridley out of the center back and getting him more into that midfield, I think it allowed things to flow a little bit better. I think that it created more offense, and obviously it comes at the expense of shipping 2 goals for it. I think if you're looking to make a change for Oakland, I think getting Camden Riley, sorry, not Ridley, I'm thinking of another guy, Camden Riley. I think getting him out of center back, which he can do, wonderfully. But get him in the midfield. I think that is something to keep an eye out on. Smith Video Production says Dwyer kept trying to play cute with the ball at his feet and lost it a couple times. Yeah, I think that there was a moment where Dwyer definitely showed he had a different level to him than the other players, but I also think that a little bit, I think that there's going to be a little bit of how do we, I don't know how to word this. Like, he needs to be more match fit to pull it off. And you don't get match fit unless you try those things. I think that Dom Dwyer is going to have a bit of a growing pain personally at come the end of it, but we'll see. I think that you can see what Dom Dwyer is trying to do. I think that you can see how he's trying to grow. I think you can see the evolution that he can bring to it. I mean, towards the end of this match, you saw this Oakland team in like a 4-2-4, and it kind of was what it was. I think that it was exciting. I think they lost a lot of defensive integrity, but if they're wanting to score goals, that 4-2-4 looks like it could be a real deal. Question comes in: what happened with CBS? So, with the things that happened with the politics, they went to basically an exclusive, like, this is an emergency show. We got to talk about all the politics. And they just went right over CBS and they just kept talking about it. And instead of just kind of reporting the news, it kind of turned into commentary on the news. And so, in the wise words of the students I teach, they were just yapping. So it all went to cbssports.com. It's a bummer, man, because I really think that if the mass public could have watched this match, I really think that they would have, I bet they would have fallen in love with what they watched. I feel like a lot of fans would have been super in love with what they watched. Yeah, I think that it was a fun match. I think it was something that new fans to the game would have been really into. It is what it is. For people who are wondering, why is it just Kaylor talking? Why is he just kind of filibustering? Right now, we're still waiting for John and Phil to join in. And while we are waiting, I just want to remind you to check out goals.tv if you want to check out some of our exclusive content. We're supposed to have a lot of exclusive content filmed this weekend. Obviously, I was not there, so we're kind of have to change plans a little bit, but there's going to be a lot of our stuff heading over there that we promise you'll love. And also check out addedtimeoutfitters.com. Use code USL, and you get 10% off your order. If you're a Sacramento fan, they have a Sacramento wristband, which is pretty neat. Get 10% off. It helps us. It helps them. It helps you look more fashionable. So check out addedtimeoutfitters.com. I always call them Added Time Outfitters. I don't know what that's about. I don't know why I do that. Yeah, I mean, but kind of getting back into this match just a little bit, I'm going to pull up some stuff real fast and just kind of talk through what we see here on the screen other than the giant CBS thing. I want to start off with Sacramento and what we saw from them in the first half. And I think what you really see is Jack Gurr was a dog, man. Like, they came out and they looked so good. And you can see just kind of this area, and I'm just going to take Danny Vitiello out of here so you can kind of see. Like, you can see Oakland on this right side on this heat map was just not creating any kind of pressure. And yes, if you want to hit me with random questions while we do this, you are more than allowed. You can see that Oakland wasn't creating any pressure. Look at where their center backs were set up. If you look at Timmer, if you look at Wheats, if you look at Lee Desmond, they were nowhere near the top of the box during the first half. You can also see where you had where you had Jack Gurr really running the full length of the field. Like, you can tell where he was really getting involved. Um, so I think that's really fun to see. I think what you also see here is a nice midfield triangle with when you have Pirano, Nick Ross, and Justin Portillo. Those guys really created a true diamond that they were struggling to create. I'm going to kind of show what that looks like in just a second, with Portillo, Ross, and I'm just going to go put Felipe in there as well. Look at how much of the ground they cover, man. Like, instead of Portillo being on the mount, like on this island that he was on before, you can really see that he had help defensively. I mean, especially when you look at Portillo. I mean, he is running this midfield big time, but you're also getting more help with him, and which is why they look so unstoppable. It's really stunning. If I take out Luis Felipe, just look how much of an impact he had, first off. But once again, they are so front-footed here that even Pirano is getting really far forward, even though he was playing as a true number 6. That is impressive stuff. Okay, so let's look at what Oakland did here then. So if I want to bring back Oakland for the first half, make sure I have first half on. Yep. You kind of see oh, now you can't see anything because go me. You can kind of see what everybody saw. You saw that Cedeno was really running this right side. You really see that guys like Trayvon Reed were not as involved. Johnny Rodriguez also shading over to his right side because his other position is, of course, right wing. You can kind of see that right wing position being overran, but they had no central midfield presence. And I want to just do a little, just let you see something, and I talked about it, of how little this top of the box on your right-hand side was really affected. I want to bring in Lee Desmond, Shane Wheat, and Jared Timmer, what they did in the first half. None of them are touching the top of the box. None of them. How crazy is that? That you don't have anybody up here at the top of this box. I'm going to take them away once again. Look at, there's nothing there. And that is just showing just how dominant this team was when they were running the show, man. They were not getting into these dangerous areas. There's a reason why Oakland didn't create anything in this first half. They weren't getting pressure. And when you look at all of it, there's no wonder why it changed. So what did change for Oakland? I am going to just go ahead and switch this over, and we are going to go over to the second half while we are waiting for Phil and John. Look at how much more coverage they had. I know people are going to say, like, you're going to lose a little bit of space in your midfield because they really went with this 4-2-4, just put all their attacking players forward, and there were holes in the midfield. But look how much more they were attacking. Look how much more of the field that they were taking up. There were less gaps attacking-wise. And there were times that they played really pretty soccer, man. Like, it looked really good. I think that this is, if I were Coach Gavin, I think I would go with a 4-2-4 more often because, I mean, they looked overran. Sacramento looked overran. And I'll be honest, against a team that's not Sacramento, that is the best defense in the league, I think they score multiple. And I know they are score 2, but 3 goals maybe out of this. Like, I think that this is something that you could really go to. While, like I mentioned, while we're waiting for John and Phil, I'm going to send them a quick message. We get a message that says, "What is the biggest accomplishments you've had since running the show?" Just kind of the USL show in general, because I feel like a lot of what happens with the USL show has been very holistic. We have a lot of cool things that we've done. Definitely getting the guys out to Oakland has been a huge accomplishment. Raising the money for that and getting everybody out there was really cool. I think the biggest accomplishment just in general is running 2 to 3 shows that we're getting a lot of just kind of views on. And if we're being honest, getting able to cover every league, like we're having to figure out the Super League right now, but we cover everything, and it's been really cool to do. I think that has been the biggest accomplishment for just us as a show. Looking here, I do think that this is kind of showing what the issues like in the first half. I mean, I'm just going to kind of switch to first half. Nothing. Like, look at it on your right-hand side. If you're watching this, look at the top of the box on the right side. Do you see any kind of attacking presence? I'm going to click the second half now. I mean, it's unbelievable how much more involved that they were. I think it's impressive. I think that this should be what Oakland does. So how did Sacramento change things up as I switch things over? The middle of the field was like fully vacated, man. Like they were really just running it to the wide areas. You saw it a lot. I think that you saw complacency is not the right word, but they were going to kind of let Oakland run themselves ragged. And I think after they got the second goal, you kind of saw them kick back into gear, and you really saw this Oakland team push Sacramento into going more attacking. But you can really see that they were on their back foot. Once again, I want to show you the first half, the second half. First half, there was nothing close to the top of the box. This one blob in the box is Danny Vitiello. Like, that's it. That's all it is. That is just Danny Vitiello. And then the second half comes along. Oakland pushes them into their own box, and they have zero attacking prowess going forward. It's interesting to see. It's very intriguing. I think that it's going to be interesting how Sacramento responds to this. You can kind of blame, I don't want to say complacency. Complacency is not the right term for it right now, but you definitely see where they were just kind of sitting back and saving legs because they kind of had the win. What can they take away from this in the end? Because they shipped 2 goals. You know, Vitiello's not getting his clean sheet bonus. You know, the defense has to wear the fact that they didn't get a clean sheet, but they scored 5 goals, and, you know, 2 goals come in time where it looks like it may not matter. I don't know. Can we say that Johnny Rodriguez is one of the most clutch forwards in the USL? Man, when he has come into his own as of lately, I think that Johnny Rodriguez has been really good at what Johnny has done is really impressive. As we are being joined by John and Phil, who are going to be live down on the pitch now. And fellas, how was the game? How was the atmosphere? Tell us all about it.
No, I mean, it was an absolute blast. You could absolutely feel the passion from both supporters groups. The Sacramento fans were punchy, excited when they took the lead. The Roots supporters, all of them, never stopped singing, never stopped drumming. 10, 15, 20 minutes after the game, you could feel that energy in the stadium. And it really felt like the comeback was on for a minute there in the second half in a way where the atmosphere matched that in terms of the electricity of it all. So, yeah, a completely awesome experience.
Yeah, I would echo all of that, and I think it shows sort of an evolution organizationally, just how hard Roots are taking this one. Like, they really are taking it on the chin, like, as a team, based on some of the comments from some of the body language from players, and then some of the comments from Gavin Glinton as well, which I'm currently uploading to the Google Drive. But yeah, I think in general it does show that there's the level of expectation around here is definitely changing, and I think for the better. Sacramento came in and did the business. It's really it was a very professional job in the end. There was a period of time, like John said, where I thought they might just meme a little bit and give it up, but no, they saw it out, and they really punished all of Oakland's mistakes like very ruthlessly, which is what you have to do to be a team at the top of the West.
Yep.
You know,
good night to John Como from Roots Blog. Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out Jonathan. I love Jonathan. You know, one thing that I kind of talked about during this show
I probably should.
is
Mark
the
would love
fact
it, I think,
that we saw Oakland really pushing Sacramento in that second half. When you look at the heat map in the first half, none of the Sacramento players were even on top of the box. There was not a single blue haze on top of the box. No one in the box. Oakland didn't push them at all. And then in the second half, it looked like Sacramento was holding on for dear life at times.
Yes, sir.
Was that kind of the same vibe in the stadium?
No, I mean, I think the second half really was an inversion for Oakland, where bringing on Dwyer, moving Cameron Riley into the midfield gave you more intensity where you needed it in terms of getting stops. It gave you a different sort of fluidity up top that challenged Sacramento in a different way. Some of it was like you're a team defending up 4-0. Like naturally you're going to absorb pressure a little bit more. But I thought the changes from the Roots, and especially when they went into kind of a back three mode to end the game, like that was what you want to see in terms of Oakland pushing for a goal, playing positive soccer, in stark contrast to that first half.
Yeah, they really came out of the blocks like slow, I think, and unfortunately they having an early mistake like that where it leads a one-on-one with Kieran Phillips is basically a worst case scenario for anybody. And they gave up a handful of those sort of situations. Unfortunately, it's like you even look back, you would think with 5 goals conceded, hey, maybe there's some like criticism to come in for Cyrell like in goal. I don't think he can save basically any of them. There's like maybe the Ross goal, like there's a chance, but basically all of the rest were either mistakes or tap-ins or whatever. So it's just a brutal day at the defensive end, I think, for the Roots. And they did show a lot of life in that sort of like 50 to 80 minute period where it's like, man, they're kind of clawing their way back in and maybe they're going to get something from this against all odds. But yeah, they left it. They basically left themselves too steep of a hill to climb, I think.
While we were kind of waiting for these interviews to come from post game, and us just kind of talking a little bit, got 2 things for you. Were you guys aware of the CBS bump away or no?
Did something big happen?
Yeah, it's almost like there was big political news or something today.
Yeah, we unfortunately knew, and I think they were aware in the stadium. I don't know that the teams were necessarily aware.
No,
like
the players on the field probably did not.
But yeah, the organizations were all aware.
Yeah, Tommy well aware of it.
Yeah. Second thing for you talk about that Gavin Glinton interview after the game. While we haven't been able to watch it quite yet and we haven't been able to listen to it, you guys were obviously there. What was it, more disappointment in the first half, excitement about the second half, or just like this, like it sucks that we did this on national television?
It was sort of like he was upset with what he perceived as a lack of effort and like a lack of fight. He thought, and I think it's similar to sort of the sentiment that had come out after the Pittsburgh game of like not enough chasing back, not enough like really working hard and just letting Sacramento. I mean, watching in real time, it really did feel like Sacramento was sort of first to every 50-50 like in that opening. And it does sometimes just come down to like, are you putting your body on the line? Are you actually like competing for these or are you sort of backing out and playing more passive and all that stuff? And I think that was sort of the message from Gavin after the game, was that he said, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he basically said that like one team knew it was a rivalry and one didn't. And that was essentially like, one had intensity and the other didn't, unfortunately, out of the blocks.
Yeah, and Gavin got a couple questions about like choosing Cyrell over Blanchett. maybe what were the choices in terms of who you're putting in the forward line initially. And he defended the fact that he trusts the depth on this team. He thinks he has a deep bench no matter who he's starting. And that, they just didn't bring the effort. He didn't feel like there was a specific call he made that was necessarily incorrect or fatal.
One thing that he said during the game, and Mike and Devin talked about it on the broadcast, and they got him on the microphone during the mid-game interview that they did. He said very bluntly, "My players are hiding. They have to stop hiding." Was that something that was kind of reiterated in the interview? But is that something that you guys could kind of see in person, of like just players afraid to basically almost be like decision fatigue or like crisis averting, where they would just kind of hide from the moment?
I don't know that he said anything that harsh necessarily.
No.
Like, he definitely criticized the effort, which I think you can kind of read between the lines. Like, if a coach is willing to say that there was a lack of effort, he probably has some. What his message for the team will probably be a bit harsher than that. I don't think that it was something that you spot necessarily like in the flow of the game, aside from just like kind of what I mentioned, where it's like it just didn't feel like they were first to anything for about the first like 40 minutes or maybe half hour, where it's just Sacramento was just smothering them. And I mean, there's a lot of credit I think that you have to give Sac Republic to. We commented on the press a ton, and it was just like it was absolutely suffocating. And Oakland, I think, were a bit naive at times in the way that they tried to play around it. But definitely a lot of credit has to go to Sac Republic, because I think there's a lot of players in that Sac Republic team who get kind of like painted, and probably Phillips and Pirano mostly, of like, oh, these are sort of like luxury players, all that sort of stuff. They were swarming. Like, they were doing tons of running off the ball, tons of like, they were just like always available as an out. They were pressing like crazy. So I think in general, like you do have to give quite a bit of credit to Sac Republic for making Oakland look that way. Because I'm sure no player out there was like, okay, well, this is just like too big of an occasion, and I'm just gonna go into a shell now. It was like they really got backed into a corner by a really relentless press.
Kind of let's walk through the game itself. Obviously, quick start for Kieran Phillips, and then not too incredibly long later, we ends up getting a headed goal off of a corner, like a set piece routine that was just really nice. And then a third goal right before the end of the half. Kind of take us through the first half from the beginning to the end of it.
Well, we talked a lot about Christian Pirano and the way that Sacramento was able to activate him, get him in combination with Jack Gurr. I was commenting on the way that they were pushing Luis Felipe up in that half space out of the central midfield. It felt like they had the overloads, they had the interactions that they needed to pretty easily work past Oakland. And the end result almost always was Pirano was getting into the box, getting into areas where he could create effectively. But he was sharper too. Like, it's not just system. There was something that changed in Pirano's mentality, the aggression he brought to the table that made him that much more effective. And it was really kind of paying off the talent that we know he has in a little bit more of a tangible manner.
And I think we also saw that Pirano inclusion, and just the way that he was. I think you even said during the game that basically the most confident we've seen Christian Pirano since he was in San Antonio. And I think in general, if he's taking that step up to where he is feeling himself, and is just like, and is actually believing and trusting his ability, I think that is a problem for the rest of the Western Conference and the rest of the league. Because adding him as a genuine weapon is he had a lot of impacts even off the ball, or like influencing play just outside of being as creative as he was. And then I think it also unlocked the sort of the midfield conundrum that we were talking about, is like Nick Ross obviously became unlocked by Pirano's inclusion, because we were looking at certain points where it's like they're trying to mark Pirano and Jack Gurr on Oakland's left, and you've got Nabil Hackshaw and Justin Rasmussen marking those two guys. Well, if Nick Ross makes a run in between them, who's picking him up? There is nobody. So that was a exploit that they basically found early, and they were able to put to good use. And that third goal from Sac Republic is the pick of the bunch for me, because it was just Gurr wins the ball back high, finds Pirano. Pirano plays like a really great disguised reverse pass through for Nick Ross and a really composed finish for a midfielder. So yeah, I think that was that just showed, I think, and like in one goal, kind of how Sac Republic can take a step up given the personnel involved now.
You know, you kind of talk about the midfield conundrum. I mean, let's just talk about the 4 midfielders that we, kind of highlighted that Phil, you specifically highlighted, and it kind of came true. When we talk about Luis Felipe, Justin Portillo, Nick Ross, and Christian Pirano, I mean, they were all incredible. And especially when you look at the central midfielder, Portillo was no longer left on an island. It felt like they finally surrounded him with help. And it felt like all the problems we talked about pre-game were nothing in the first half. Was that an Oakland thing, or did it really feel like Sacramento figured it out?
I actually think it was less that they were supporting Portillo actively. It was more that they were taking steps upfield where he wasn't even being challenged.
Yeah.
Like the pressing shape was very much this kind of 3-1-4-2. Portillo is still that lone player deeper down, but because you are marking so tightly against the center backs and the center mids, Oakland didn't really have a way to work into areas that might challenge Portillo. And I mean, you saw when Sacramento started to sit back in the second half, some of those problems arose again, right? Like that's why they conceded twice. So I mean, I think from the get-go, the intensity of the press was kind of this protective shield that really kind of added balance in an unexpected way.
So let's go ahead and move to the second half, where 50 seconds in, Kieran Phillips gets a poacher's goal, and it's 4-0. And at that point, Oakland could have fully just collapsed in of itself. The fans could have easily just said, "Screw this, I'm out." But it seemed like after that point, Oakland went to this like kind of pseudo 4-2-4. Whenever they moved Cam Riley into the midfield and take him out of the center back role. And then finally they had some life. What transformations did you really see out of Oakland to really take it to Sacramento in that second half?
I mean, I guess that triple sub, like it was funny. We were joking, they made 3 subs and then like immediately conceded a goal, and we were like, a lot that changed. And then it did actually like make a pretty big impact on the game. I think Riley's really unfortunate to be like in the position that he is to contribute to that tap in from Phillips. But I think him and G being on the left and sort of like shoring up Rasmussen and just giving him an extra like body out there to really do some of the like hard work, keep the ball. I think that was actually the biggest thing that NG added was like it just got them on the ball a little bit more, where he's a like presence physically, he's a lot tougher to dispossess than someone like Trayvon Reed, who's a little bit slighter, a little bit quicker, But I think NG was a big difference there. And then I guess when they brought on actually Miss United Cherry, it actually kind of unlocked the way that they were trying to play from the get-go, which I think does like sort of add like maybe a question of like why wasn't he involved from the start, just because if you're going to play like that against Sac Republic where you're going to ask guys to back down defenders and hold up play, that is the forward that you want in there versus a guy like Johnny Rodriguez, who is going to be way better when he's got someone to run off of. And so it was a little surprising that they brought on Dwyer initially, because Cherry really seemed to be the one who kind of like got to the next level.
And we were sort of up and down when we were thinking about Dwyer, because there were the moments where he just wasn't up to what you needed from a hold-up striker, from someone who was ostensibly trying to be that physical presence. But there were the moments where he and Lindo and Becca would rotate, where Dwyer would make these runs out to the right side that really asked questions of the Sacramento defense, where you're like, oh, this is why you're going and getting Dom Dwyer and giving him a big contract in the first place. Like, he's got a cleverness, he's got an ability to read the game. That's a cut above a lot of forwards in the USL. And even if it wasn't as active on the ball from him necessarily, like the way he moved, the way he demanded attention was valuable.
I want to talk about the last goal or the second goal from Johnny Rodriguez, because it's a brilliant ball over the top, but to take a chip like that from outside the 18 on the half volley, and put it. It looked like it kissed off the bottom of the bar. That's one of the best finishes I've seen this year.
It was fantastic. I think like you said, to first time chip a ball like that has been chipped itself over your shoulder. And then Danny Vitiello, like the thing about a chip, right, is like often you wait for the keeper to go to ground. Like that's when the chip is the best option. Danny Vitiello is jumping and can't reach this chip. Like watching it back, he is actually airborne. Like, so it is sort of the least, I guess, like ideal finish, but it is the one that Rodriguez had to take for the flight of the ball, and he placed it absolutely perfectly. It was one of those where sometimes chips can kind of be like a waiting game of like, is it going in? But for some reason there was something about it. Like we were sort of right behind it, and like it was goal bound like from the second it left his foot, and it was one of those moments that you definitely feel. And I think like maybe that's some of the thing around Rodriguez is like he is capable of like those moments. It's just about getting him in the right, like in the right situations, where for the first half he was just toiling with nothing, like no service, no ability to actually like influence things. But then the second you get him shoulder to shoulder with a center back running a goal, like he makes good things happen. So I think that's probably the question for Roots is like, how do you get him in those situations more often? Probably one of the best like pure finishers in the league, I would say.
Yeah,
like, in terms of instinct, yeah.
You know, we did notice that Dwyer came on and really changed things. How much of that, like, and we did see him try to get a little fancy on the ball and then kind of lose possession, and it was a little frustrating, but also his hold-up play and some of the passes that he was attempting, and honestly, just the gravity that he held, all the center backs just kind of floated to him. Is starting Dwyer maybe how you just unlock a Johnny Rodriguez, or do you think it has more to do with the fact that we talked about Riley came on and into the midfield and they could actually hold on to the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think Riley, you can't understate how valuable he was to kind of changing the dynamic. Oakland had no control in the center of the park early on. They were late to almost every second ball opportunity. Riley is kind of the Energizer Bunny, right? He's going to go battle at every opportunity, close down as fast as he can. I think he's a bit more progressive in possession as well. Like he's not afraid, even if it does come off a bit reckless, to just push forward no matter the context. That, in addition to having a second forward that's actually demanding defensive attention, as opposed to two wingers who really aren't doing that, like in tandem, I think the moves are kind of inseparable in terms of the impact they had.
So I'm just assuming, because obviously you guys are there, interviews still coming or no?
Well, the problem is when you lose 5-2, it's a little bit less. We do have Camden Riley coming at some point, but seems like probably not much else.
I think they might be getting a bollocking, to use a British term. So
half of Sacramento is on the bus, and no one has left the Oakland locker room yet. So you might be saying something.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, if that is the case, just in general, what about this just whole experience? And honestly, like, from other than all the craziness, like the pregame, we talked about it with the fans. You talked about how both sets of fans, I mean, there's nothing cooler than a full away section, and Sacramento looked awesome. They sounded awesome on TV. Just in general, the fan experience.
Yeah, I would say, and I'm sort of alluding to this comment of like the toxic Oakland fans. I think like one of the cool things about being in person is you see how people actually behave with each other and not how they behave online, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we saw was two fan bases who were just like absolutely in it to win it. There wasn't a single, well, I won't say a single, but there were only a handful of Oakland fans who made for the exits after Trevor Amon's like fifth.
Yeah.
It was full at 90, right? Like everybody was still there. There was a little show of solidarity against John Fisher as well. The Sac Republic fans unfurled a banner at full time, like John Fisher is bad for sports. And so there was a little fan solidarity, and it was everything during the game was completely like harmless in terms of like the back and forth. There was some banter in the stands, all that sort of stuff.
So many Sacramento chants calling them Hayward instead of Oakland, like ribbing, but good-hearted ribbing.
Yeah. So I think all in all, like it was a great experience. Like I I hope that one video. I know I was like walking past speakers. I'm like headphone users rip, but it was like, but there was like that pregame of just how like full the Oakland, like just how full the stands were, period, and then just how into it basically from everyone was locked in, and it was just two groups enjoying like a good game of football, I think, and at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. I wish, like, the one wish is that it had been on national TV, because I think it was like a great advertisement for the league. It's just a shame that more people didn't get to see it.
Of course, Ben has to know where he's rowdy IRL as you are on Twitter.
He was like when he actually got into it with a section of Sac Republic fans when Johnny Rodriguez scored. You know, he had his shirt off over his head, like just like
chased me halfway around the stadium with pitchforks.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a no. John was well behaved before we get our one shot like revoked at this. So no, we behaved ourselves.
Yeah, for as much as Tommy knows, I was very well behaved.
Yeah, one thing that I was just really impressed with was honestly just everything with Sacramento. And I'm just going to pose this question to you. You said Johnny Rodriguez possibly the best finisher in the USL. Are there two better players in the league at finishing one-on-ones than Trevor Amon and Kieran Phillips? Because both of them, as soon as they went one-on-one, I was like, oh, that's a goal. No question.
Yeah, I mean, I think Phillips might actually even have an edge on Amon in terms of just pure one-on-one. Amon is a great finisher, like, don't get me wrong.
Amon does it in all contexts, but like Phillips almost specializes in that. In
the one-on-ones, yeah. And I mean, it was one of those where the second he like intercepts that pass and is one-on-one with the keeper, you're thinking like, if that's curtains, like he's definitely, there's no way that Phillips is putting it away or isn't putting it away. So yeah, I'd agree with you. I think I said as much as on Twitter, just like Phillips in a one-on-one, there's not many strikers in USL that I take over him just in terms of just in a one-on-one. He's lights out, it seems, because basically every goal comes from that situation.
And I had the question pre-game of like, oh, was it the right call to go with him over Trevor Amon? Because of what Amon did in the reverse fixture. Well, 5 minutes in, I was clearly proven wrong. So that's why Mark Briggs is coaching the team.
A little bit of circumstance, though, probably, and like how it came about. Yeah, so.
Before, because we're still kind of just holding on just to see, but you know, we might have to just kind of cut off.
We've been told by Tommy 2 minutes to get Cam to that.
Okay. So before Cam gets out there.
How do we want to grab one? Okay.
So I'm still here. I'm just going to go ahead and ask you though. When I talked to Mark Briggs, and I mentioned this a second ago, I asked him about the reverse fixture, about the game at home, and he said that he was very blunt. He said he was embarrassed to coach the players after the Oakland loss a couple of weeks ago. He said it was an embarrassment to him as a coach. It was an embarrassment to the players. It was an embarrassment to the badge. He said he had never been so embarrassed in his life than to coach that team that night. Is that why they came out so fiery? Because if he was willing to say that to me on a camera, what was he saying behind closed doors?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that. Yeah. You have to think that they definitely, and I mean, it definitely had some kind of impact because they came out of the gates really, really fired up, and I think the fact that it's been referred to now as a rivalry so many times, I get like they're 2 hours apart, it is a natural rivalry, but you know, there are no sort of like out of the box rivalries in USL. I feel like between the last game and this game, it has felt different now in terms of it's not just like, oh, little brother Oakland Roots that like Sac Republic beats up on. It's like I think it's developing into something pretty intense now.
And you could genuinely feel the intensity from Sacramento, whether that's rivalry, whether that's they've got a lot to prove just given the recent run of results.
Sure.
Like there was a passion behind their game that I think has been lacking for a lot of the season, frankly. So maybe this is the result that galvanizes them to probably rise up what's a pretty wide open Western Conference right now.
And, you know, whenever I talked to Coach Gavin, he was a bit different in a conversation, and both are fine. Like both have their place in the sense that Gavin was a lot more calculated with what he said. I asked him about the Sacramento match, and he was like, "We're not there yet. Like, we have Pittsburgh on the horizon. Like, they're the only people that are thinking about the Sacramento match are fans, the front office on getting on CBS, and that's it. Like, no one's thinking about that yet." And do you think that's maybe a difference on how they kind of came out?
Well, yeah, but we are actually about to be joined now by Cam Riley. He's he's stopping.
I'm claiming the first question because he's holding an item, and I've been seeing a whole bunch of people carrying these, and I'm very curious about the contents here. So just hold on one sec.
We got a tape review going on. They're watching film off camera.
Right now.
Yeah,
It's getting better at all times.
yeah. Always grinding. Oh, just grind set.
Okay, so I just want to start off and ask.
Welcome
I've been seeing
to
a
the
whole
show.
bunch of players coming out with the boxes. I'm assuming it's a meal.
Yes, I don't even know what it is. Let's open it.
Okay.
Just surprise.
Okay, meal reveal.
So meal reveal. I'll let you do the honors.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, turn it to the camera. So.
Okay.
Oh, chicken and rice. Party.
Party.
Gives you those calories after the game.
Get some
Yeah.
carrots. I
I
think.
got to wash away that game. With some food and water.
I mean, I guess that is like in terms of starting off the questions and everything. Obviously, a tough result, but there was a bit of change in terms of like you shifted from center back up into midfield in the second half.
Yeah.
Felt like things were going a little bit better
Yeah.
there for about half an hour. So talk about like your role, I guess, and how that impacted things.
Oh, I think it's important that I continue to be a player. I've always been known as a player to play anywhere, right? And one of my strengths is being able to do that, and finding ways to help the team any way I can. It's an unfortunate result today. It's funny because I moved to the midfield and immediately gave up a goal back to them. But
We were
things
debating
like that
saying
happen.
anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, listen, it's part of reality, right? We are, our goal is to go out there and perform, right? And sometimes things don't bounce your way, and that's part of it. Now it's time to go back to the drawing board and work on things, and come back next week and be better, right? You never want to give up 10 goals in 2 games, so that would be a slide for us, a landslide. But things have been going well, and we've proven that we were a team that can do it. And I think that's why it stings so much, is because we know we're a team that can beat the best teams in the world.
Sure.
So not our night, not our day, but I just want to focus on helping the team.
Sure.
It's, whether it's at center back, whether it's in the midfield, whether it's outside back, doesn't matter. And I think that's just a big thing for me is helping create that winning culture.
Did I was gonna add it? Did the way Sacramento came out in terms of just like the intensity of the press and all that? Like, did that catch you guys off guard at all? In terms of, it is a little bit different than how they've played, I guess, over the last few games. So did that catch you guys out at all?
I think a little bit. I think that a lot of the things come down to us in our individual plays and how we can fix those.
Sure.
But some days it's just the ball doesn't bounce your way, and we also they also have to play on that pitch, right? They have to be used to the ball moving on it differently, and I think we just have to limit the chances that we give them, right? But you're right. I think they did come out with a good energy today. They were on the front foot, and we weren't. So, I'd say that's a fair assessment.
No, definitely.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think it caught us all sort of off guard in terms of the intensity, just because Sac Republic, or what we think of it has typically been a very measured and sort of they build up slowly,
exactly.
and they really kind of hold the ball, just try to keep it away. And in this game, it definitely felt like they were trying to get it back high up the field and really trying to put you guys under pressure. And so, I mean, obviously it is a big blow, but in terms of how do you water up a duck's back, sort of this sort of result? How do you just let 2 results like that slide?
I think in human psychology, it's always tough, right? Everyone feels those things. We're people too, just like everyone else. But I think just going back to the basics and doing what we did well to get us to where we were, right? At a streak of 9 games or whatever, we won 7 out of 9, something like that. Just doing those things that we did well, and I think just making it harder on teams to score on us. I think that we got away from that for 2 games, and it just became a little bit easier. just like we're trying to score on them, they're trying to score on us. So I think we've got to really hunker down and be good defensively, because that's what made us good.
Yeah, and in a more positive sense, what do you think fueled that run of whatever 9-10 games where you were so successful after Gavin took over?
I think just the camaraderie within the team and a never give up mentality, and starting games well, starting games strong, and understanding that we can be resilient, we can bend and not break. And today I think we showed spurts of that, which is positive. But you never want it to get to 3-0 before we do it. So, and you take it with a grain of salt, just like everyone. You can never be too high and never too low. And I think that's something that worked with us when things changed and we won 7 out of 9. Things were going well. We were never too high, never too low. And at the end of the day, you look back on these 2 results at the start at this point in the season, and we hope that we can turn it back, right? Because at the end of the day, they only got 3 points, and we only lost 3 points. It's 2 games, so we still have 13 more, something like that. So we've got 13 more games to turn around, and I think that's what we need to focus on. It's just doing the basics, just the basics. Oh, that's good. I have full belief in this team and the fact that we are a championship level team. Full belief. Days like today don't stray me away from it.
Does that actually, that was something that I was thinking about too, is like, it does feel like the level of expectation around the team. Roots has sort of been like, since they joined the league, it's like, hey, if we make the playoffs, like that's nice, like sort of, and like, hey, we've got like a good culture and all this stuff. But like, is there a step being taken now by the organization to say like, hey, it's not actually good enough to just be like the cool team that misses the playoffs, and now we're gonna be like we're gonna go win stuff?
Yeah, I think everyone can see. I think we've taken the league and shown everyone that we are more than capable, and I think that's why days like today hurt so much, because we know that's not normal for us. That's not our normal. So finding a way to get back to that is what we as a club expect, and that's. The guys on the team, the roster, from top to bottom, is of that quality. So it's just a matter of putting it together.
Hey, Cam, can you hear me?
What's up? Hi, Killer. Yeah, what's up?
Just kind of talking about the expectations. The fans were incredible all 90 minutes. Like they were talking about, even after the 5th goal, like barely anybody left, and they were loud the whole time.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to put on a better show for them, but just kind of experiencing that on the field, how was it?
I think it helps. It builds us, right? We're nothing without them, and they are huge. And everyone around the league sees it. And every single day we show up and we work, and they show up, and they are our 12th man, and they are loud. And you can't even hear your teammates on the field when they're there. And so I think that shows who Oakland is. That shows what the people think of the club and how much it means to them. For them to stay after a 5th goal is something that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often. And so it's a testament to the strength of the Roots and our belief and their belief in us. So I think it's just a bonus, right? You get that extra strength to run more, play harder.
In terms of the rivalry with Sac Republic, one, it feels like it is developing into something more of a true rivalry than like, hey, these teams are close by each other geographically. And on the field, there were a couple of moments where it felt like it was getting a little spiky, a little bit like people were definitely like diving into challenges maybe a little bit more and stuff. Like, did you guys feel that shift? Was it the last game that shifted things between you guys?
I think that the first game we played we came out there and we were on the front foot, and we went up 3-0 just like they did here. And I think that it's a rivalry, a strong rivalry. We want to beat them. We wanted to do the double over them today. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We split it 1-1. But that's the beauty of the rivalry, is that guys are flying into challenges. We're talking to each other. We're trying. We're out there fighting for our lives to win. And so I think that it is a very real rivalry. Yeah. And one that is I think the best in the league. You see the 2 games we played against them. 2 of the best games of the year. Yeah.
We saw the same intensity against Monterey.
Yeah.
The one moment in particular was right before Justin assisted Johnny for the second goal. I think Jack Gurr was trying to sort of like show that he had been fouled.
Yeah.
So he was being quite vocal about the fact that he had maybe been sent into the sideboards here.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Rasmussen delivered the ball, and he kind of went back to Gerd to give it to him. So I don't know, like those. I always enjoy the fact, like when a rivalry is not just the fans, because it can be easy for the fans to be like, oh, I hate Sacramento because they're close by or whatever. It's another level for the players to really be invested in the rivalry.
Certainly, and we are. It's a derby, right? Yeah. We want to go out there and fight and win. So that's important. Yeah. So.
On your own personal level, how do you feel like you've grown as a player this year, in the last couple of years, like from RGV, San Diego to here?
No, I think I've really come into who I am as a player and established myself in this league. And my goal is to just continue building on each performance, right? And not every performance is going to be great, but we take a look at it and we assess it with a grain of salt, and then we continue to get better. And during the week, I pride myself on being playing the same way I did when I was the 21st man on the roster in RGB as I am now, as more of the established leaders. And it's been interesting to see. It's been fun. And I the funny thing is, I tell all the guys I love soccer the same way I did when I was 8 that I do now. So I think that continues to drive me forward as a player, and just continuing to have the confidence in myself, whether everyone believes in that or not. I can stay true to myself and believe that my skills are good and I can do those things no matter what position I'm in. So it's a good question. Appreciate it.
Hey Cam, sorry, last question for me before I stop interrupting Phil. So you've mentioned you've been in the league for a while, and you talk about how the rivalry with Sacramento is real. You as a player, I mean, you have gone against Sacramento in massive matches, right? Like you have played against them a lot. And I don't necessarily mean a certain player that you kind of go nose to nose with, but is there something about playing certain teams over and over again that you really start circling the calendar personally, or is that just kind of fan stuff?
100%. You circle the calendar for these games. These are the games that you live for as a player. And, you're going up against a club that's established themselves at the top perennially. And the rivalry continues to grow because, both clubs are having success. And that also drives it, right? As a player, you want to play in the big games. You want to play on national television. And that drives your motivation into every tackle, every time you step on the field, you're giving it all. But yeah, I completely agree. I definitely circle the calendar every time we're playing Sacramento.
So looking ahead, what's the message in the locker room, and what's the feeling ahead of Miami? How are you guys attacking like these couple of weeks off?
I think just understanding that we just want to go back to the basics, right? And it's been a tough year so far. Been through a lot of ups and downs, and that won't stop. So just staying true to who we are as players and as a team and sticking together is the biggest thing. I think that's been the message that, no matter whether we win 10-0 or we lose 10-0, we only have each other. We've got to continue to build. Love it. Awesome. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. So thanks for making the time.
This means a lot to me because it's great to put a face to the name. And, it's fun because, us as players, especially in the USL, it's important to have people like you because, this isn't Inter Miami. We're not going for the biggest interview mess, right?
Right.
So it's important that soccer is driven by people like y'all. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Really appreciate that.
It means a lot to us.
Thanks.
Yeah. We pay attention. We're there. I'm watching every single episode.
We definitely know the folks
looking at all the threads.
I do appreciate the fact that you're someone who pays attention and doesn't necessarily let us know every time you are paying attention, because there are those who let us know.
It's scary from our perspective of like knowing that players are reading and listening. How do you balance being critical versus being positive?
Yeah.
Listen, this not be mean.
Listen, this is the job that we chose to do.
Yeah.
We open ourselves up to scrutiny. Yeah. Right? Whether you play good or you play bad, that's the life we choose. And it's a great privilege to be able to go out there and play in front of thousands of people, play in front of people who make podcasts and care about the game and care to spread the word. And so I think that from me specifically, it's thank you for all you do.
Well, the way you've played this year, you've made it easy on us.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Well,
thank you for taking.
I
the
hope
time.
I can continue to make it easy. That's my job, is
Yeah.
to make it easy on y'all. So
Well,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Been a
Y'all
pleasure.
take care. Safe
you
travels,
too.
yeah?
Thanks, Cam.
Thank you so much.
Oh, bye.
Oh man, I need some water.
water.
I'm gonna pass out. All right.
Well, that was Cam
Have a
Riley
good one.
on the show.
See ya.
Just like that.
What a cool guy, man. What a cool guy.
What a like mature perspective to like.
He's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it from San Diego fans, everybody who's interacted with him. He's a class act, and you just saw it on
Yeah.
screen. Yeah.
And nothing about that, like when we met him this morning, when he was just on
Yeah.
the show just now, like nothing was different about any of those interactions. Like he is just a genuinely good dude.
Genuine article.
Yeah. So
Yeah, for
That was a
people
pleasure.
people who are just listening, you guys met him with the cameras off. Like it's
Yeah.
not this was performative.
no, that was very genuine, and he didn't shy away from any like tough questions. He actually volunteered the fact that he made a mistake for the goal.
Right.
Like there are a
And
lot
we
of players.
genuinely were like, are we gonna ask
Like,
him about that?
do we say like, hey, so it's gone on you, whatever,
Yeah.
like, because there are players that don't approach it with the same level of like maturity, and I just appreciate the fact that he was willing to give us time after, this was a very tough day for them.
Yeah.
So the fact he was willing to give time to us and be gracious about it and not be like kind of sulky and stuff, like it also shows like what a asset he is to Roots in terms of just being a presence in the locker room, and like you said, as he's become more of a leader and stuff. I think it's clear that teams like benefit when someone is leading the team in that manner. So long may it continue for Cam.
Well, it looks like we're kind of wrapping up on our time, unless Tommy has somebody hiding behind one of the billboards that they're moving from behind y'all.
I don't think so.
So what are your final takeaways from not just the match, but man, the entire experience?
Well, one, we have to do this again, and we should probably do it somewhere in the East Coast for everybody's availability.
For Kaler specifically.
Yeah. Two, I mean, this was a showcase of the fact that the USL community is thriving. It's thriving in places like Oakland, where this could have been a situation where they're shunted into a stadium that they didn't necessarily expect to be in. The fans have stayed true. The club has continued to grow as an organization and build a real culture. And this is happening across 24 markets in the championship, 12 in League One. There are passionate supporters everywhere. And this is the showcase for it. Sure, there were issues with CBS, but this was a game worthy of the national spotlight. And it really evidences the growth of the USL and the USL's mission within American soccer.
Yeah, and I just don't have I would say this is my first time in Oakland proper.
Yeah.
And like I've had a little bit more free time to like eat and drink than anybody else, but I've just really enjoyed like the neighborhood feel and just the fact that I've like gotten out to some really great local stuff. There's so many cultures represented as well, like in Oakland, and it's just like it's awesome. I had probably the best falafel sandwich of my life yesterday. So anyways, like I've loved just experiencing Oakland, and I can't say enough good things about Oakland Roots, like as an organization, the latitude that they give to their folks, and just like the fact that they allowed, their media relations guy to just be like, hey, this podcast thing is happening. I don't care that it's like on national TV, all this stuff. So making space for us and all of that is just like, I know I don't take it for granted, because it is like, they have to go out of their way to accommodate some of this stuff. And Tommy and the rest of the Roots, like, were nothing but gracious the whole time. So yeah, I'm just very grateful for the ability to do this. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Best food trucks from Smith Video?
There were so many good ones up there that I did not get to try. So I would say, like, if you're questioning whether you should go to a Roots game for the food, it all looked amazing. They had personal sized brick oven pizzas.
You would not believe the number of people walking around with these pizzas, and they look
insane. Like, and it's not like it's not like home run in, like,
right.
It was like a legit
Neapolitan pizza.
Yeah. And they had like awesome toppings, all this stuff. So yeah, I would definitely come out. if you're closer to Detroit, I can also say like it's a similar vibe where they have it filled with food trucks at Keyworth. So similar thing where it's just a lot of local business. So you can feel good about buying concessions too because you're supporting local. So yeah, just awesome all around.
Well, as we are about to just go ahead, wrap it up and call it a day. Again, thank you to Tommy and everybody in Oakland for allowing the USL show to go live and giving, honestly, an incredible backdrop to everything. And just access has been stunning. And thanks to JJ for letting us get the interview with Mark Briggs as we started to hype up this game and, you know, letting him be available to us. Just thank you to everybody who made this possible, to Goals TV for helping sponsoring us get out there. Thank you to all of our patrons. Just going to run through that: John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Aaron J, Christopher Cohn, Harry Austin, John Fuller, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Dewar, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Rian Lacara, Tim Knox, NF Reg 30, MOS, and Kunal Patel. Seriously, this could not have happened without you. You don't understand. This could not have happened without you. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all the love. It's been incredible. Guys, final thoughts before we end the show.
Well, and no thank you to CrowdStrike for not allowing Kaylor to get out here. So that's I guess that's my big thing is just like I'd use more impolite language. But no, I would just say a final thanks to you, Kaylor, for all the legwork because like while it obviously took a lot of people to get us out here, you were the one who was doing a lot of coordination and I just essentially, like with the groundwork you laid, I essentially had to show up and be places and I didn't have to do a whole lot. So yeah, just like thank you for all of that. It has been an awesome experience and I'm just bummed that you weren't able to be here.
Yeah, that a million times.
Well, I appreciate it. And everybody who joined the live show and the post-game show, thank you guys so much for following along. This is going to get cut up and it's going to become a whole lot of different kinds of content and a whole lot of other stuff from videos that were taken. And we're going to try to get it all together. And it's going to be all one big fun thing. And we think that you guys are going to love it because I've loved following it along. Even if it was from afar, I could live vicariously and it's honestly been fun. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all. And honestly, for the first time today, because I didn't do it earlier, and the last time today, how about Alan's voice?
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.